Did you know Palpatine played a major role in Anakin's victory over Count Dooku on the Invisible Hand? Well, that's the case if we go by the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which is one of my favorite Star Wars Legends books. I'm actually rereading the Revenge of the Sith novelization right now, probably for my 5th or 6th time in preparation for my podcast episode on it. But I know what a lot of you might be thinking. Is it really possible that the novelization adds so much that's not in the film? And if it is added, is it still canon? Those are really interesting questions. The Revenge of the Sith novelization does greatly expand on the movie, although it's largely just in elaborating on the motivations for characters, but also in providing additional dialogue. Is it canon? Well, novelizations in the old EU did have a relatively high level of canon, and they certainly were a part of the continuity, and really it's up to you to decide whether you think that something not appearing in the movie means that it's not canon if it appears in the novelization. For me personally, I like to bring the novels in to supplement any lore from the films, especially where I think it adds to it in a meaningful way. So the Revenge of the Sith novelization really covers the relationship between Dooku and Palpatine. Although Dooku, of course, isn't in the movie for very long, we do still get a couple of chapters dedicated to his point of view, including the time immediately before the duel with Anakin and Obi-Wan and his thought process as the duel is going on. The stuff immediately before the duel is very interesting. Arguably, Dooku's character here is a little bit different than some other portrayals. Notably, he's very, very imperial in that he thinks humans should lead the galaxy and should rule through force, rather than just despising corruption, which I think is where his character has sort of gone recently. But we learn more about his plans with Palpatine and really the depth of Palpatine's treachery, not just towards the Republic, but even those he was working with. Dooku believed that the plan was for him to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi in a lightsaber fight, then to surrender to Anakin. After surrendering, he would basically sit out the rest of the Clone Wars. The Empire would later be formed. Most of the horrors and the atrocities committed by the CIS would be thrusted on General Grievous, and Count Dooku would sort of move in as an elder statesman, essentially. Before the battle, Dooku also believed that he could very handedly defeat both Obi-Wan and Anakin. He anticipated having to throw the battle, and that did get to him a little bit, especially because in his mind, no one would really ever know just how good of a swordsman he was. And this is actually how Dooku was feeling for the first couple of minutes of the battle. Both Obi-Wan and Anakin ended up presenting false lightsaber forms, i.e. they hid their true mastery of the lightsaber. They were probably playing on the fact that Dooku defeated the two of them together easily earlier. Eventually though, through the dark side of the Force, a little bit of luck, and some reliance on his bodyguards, Dooku was able to incapacitate Obi-Wan and ended up fighting Anakin in a one-on-one battle, and this is where things get really interesting. In this moment, Dooku totally abandons any questions he may have had about Anakin serving in the eventual Sith army. Palpatine had been lying to Dooku. He never told him that Anakin was going to be his future apprentice. Rather, he said he would be a general in the new Sith army that the two of them would create together. Dooku didn't see it until this battle, but when he's one-on-one with Anakin, and Anakin is upset because of the perhaps loss of Obi-Wan and the danger to the Chancellor, he starts feeding into his fear and his dark side emotions, and he becomes almost impossible to stop. Whereas Dooku is becoming weaker and weaker as the battle progresses, Anakin is only becoming more powerful and feeding off his own anger. Dooku says it's as if his heart was replaced by a fusion reactor. Anakin giving away to his emotions is just overwhelming to Dooku, and Dooku has literally no chance of contesting Anakin here. And Dooku figures this is because the one thing that had been holding him back, the walls of the Jedi teaching, were now somewhat being pierced. So, how does Dooku try to get an advantage back? Well, he reminds Anakin of those walls. He basically teases him through some novelization-only dialogue and says, look at you, you still have fear and you're giving into the anger. Basically almost goading him in a little bit, but also reminding him that in giving into his fear on the dark side, he's violating his Jedi training. The boy had the gift of fury, and even now he was holding himself back. Even now, as he landed at Dooku's flank and rained blows upon the Sith Lord's defenses. Even as he drove Dooku backward, step after step, Dooku could feel how Skywalker kept his fury banked behind walls of will. Walls that were hardened by some uncontrollable dread. Dread, Dooku surmised of himself. Of what might happen if he should ever allow that furnace he used for a heart to go supercritical. Dooku slipped aside from an overhead chop and sprang backwards. I sense great fear in you. You are consumed by it. Hero with no fear failure indeed. You're a fraud, Skywalker. You are nothing but a posturing child. And this actually works. Anakin does rein himself in. He loses that edge. He loses his ability to lose control, and Dooku starts to turn the fight the other way. Turn the fight, that is, until Sidious intervenes. He basically says, don't fear the dark side, Anakin. Use it. Use it to be stronger. Use your rage. And when Anakin does give in to the dark side, well, the fight's essentially over. Everyone in the room knows how it's going to end. And this is the genius of Palpatine's plan. He replaces Dooku in an instant, and he pushes Anakin further down that line. And this may bring up the question, well, does that mean the dark side is stronger? No, Anakin's problem was that he never fully committed either way. He was in this position where he was basically paralyzed by fear, starting from the loss of his mother, and that's fear that's never properly addressed. The novelization has this cool scene where Anakin's fears are sort of manifested during this battle when he lets go, and we see his mother and Watto sort of striking out, and that's really interesting. And the novelization explores how Palpatine kept this fear basically active throughout Anakin's entire life, but also how the Jedi failed to treat it in any meaningful way. Sitting down with Yoda and having him say, well, you're scared of your girlfriend dying? Just don't be afraid. It doesn't work like that. And in my opinion, that's one of the greatest issues of the Jedi, especially of this era. They're so tied down in dogma and their supposed truisms that they don't actually look at what's happening. All the time, Palpatine is there as a father figure that Anakin never really had. And in this case, he's basically putting himself in the position of Shmi in that Tusken Raider camp, but giving Anakin the chance to save him. All in all, as you guys maybe can guess by this point, the Revenge of the Sith novelization is absolutely excellent. Again, we're doing our reading club style podcast on Thursday. You still have plenty of time to check that out. You can listen to it on audiobook. But guys, this is all I have for today. I'm not going to talk anymore because this was meant to be a short video. Until next time, though, have a good one, be safe, and may the Force be with you.